Hi, I'm BrettFish, and this is Out of the Fishbowl. And this episode is for all of you who have faced or are right now facing cuck. Now, I'm sorry, I know some people will be bummed that I used that word. My sound guy sitting in the room with me now is one of them. But life right now just feels crap. Shit. Whatever. This week, a family friend ran out of petrol on his motorbike, and he was standing at the side of the road, and a car came around the corner and wiped him out. And the next morning he died. And I think 7 years ago now, my best friend Rob died of cancer. And just over a year ago, my wife told me that she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And one of my friends who was the most help to me at this time of going through all of that end of my marriage, a year before had his wife say exactly the same thing to him. Sometimes things are just cuck, and we cannot get hung up on the words because we want people's mess to be more palatable to us. And so this is going to be an episode about reaching the lowest point. And if you are there, or if you've been there in the past 3 years where it's felt like the whole world is kind of imploding, and where in South Africa most of the time, from all directions, it just feels like there is so much stuff going wrong, then I'm really hoping that this will be helpful for you. And maybe everything is going great for you right now, but you have a friend who is sitting in it right now, and you just want to be there for them somehow. Which is why I'm going to try and share some raw and rough and vulnerable and real thoughts around this stuff, on all of this shitty cuck, in an episode called
Episode 4, When Your Sheep Hears the Thing.
Martin Luther King Jr. said this: "We must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope." We must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. And I think when you're going through it, but maybe particularly when other people are going through it, one of the key things is just to be able to acknowledge it. Like, let it be cuck. We often feel like we need to rush people out of the cuck for our peace, so that I can feel okay. Because when people are going through it, it feels uncomfortable. And when I can't help, and when everything is going wrong, and I'm sitting there wanting to be helpful, but I don't have the right words or anything, I just, a lot of the time, just want to make it comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's crap. Everything is falling apart. Just let it be. Just acknowledge it. Like start in that place and be in that place as long as it takes, or until the person lets you know that it is time to move out of that place. We are quick to try and sanitize these things, to make them neat and comfortable. And we are quick to throw like really awful sayings and platitudes at things. God is in control. It's all going to be okay. Silver lining, all that kind of stuff. Like, there might be some measures of truth in there, but it is the least helpful thing when things are going wrong and people are trying to point you in a different direction. Just let things be wrong. Just let things hurt. Just let things suck. Just let things feel hopeless. Just allow people to be in that space. And I think the best thing you can do is just pitch up. And find out what pitching up means, because for some of you, actually being physically present there might not be the most helpful thing. And so the way you can pitch up is by dropping a meal off or sending a delivery, dropping a bottle of wine, cake, whatever it is. Just presence. Just let there be a message that I see you, that I get that it's cuck. Because when things are bad, like there's nothing somebody that can say that suddenly makes everything okay. It's not going to be made okay. But knowing that you're seen, knowing that you're not alone, even though you feel desperately alone, knowing that you're not carrying the burden by yourself, like I see you. I don't know the right words. I don't know what to do to help, but here's some melted chocolate. For me, that's going to work. And I remember people dropping things off, and I remember people making meals, and I remember ice cream containers of fudge. And those moments of just being seen, of knowing that there was nothing that could make it right in the moment, like not having to hear people say stupid things was such a gift. And maybe part of that is surrounding yourself with good people, but just acknowledge it. And just let it be. And if you are the person going through it, then I think that's something we need to hear as well. Just it's okay that right now things are not good. Like just be there and be as present in that space as you need to be. I did a talk on a youth camp once that was called "What Happens When the Stuff That Hits the Fan Hits the Fan." And one of the verses in the Bible that, as a follower of Jesus, has meaning for me is Psalm 34:18, which says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And even if you're not somebody that wants to have anything to do with church or God or whatever, just listen to the essence of what that is saying. Brokenhearted and crushed in spirit are, for me, the two lowest points you can ever be. If you have your heart broken or if you have your spirit crushed, then you can't do worse than that. There's no kind of lower low. And the promise for people who follow God, the promise in that space is that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The promise from God is never the removal of the problem, or even the removal of you from the problem, but presence. And that can be something that people can offer us. That can be something that we can offer each other. Like, I'm not going to make things better. Me being here is not fixing it, but I can be an arm around your shoulder. I can be somebody who makes you coffee. I can be somebody who organizes a list of people so that for the next 10 days, you don't have to think about cooking a meal. I can be someone who gives you a weekend away or free movie tickets or whatever it is. Somebody that just gives you a moment to relax and to have some kind of distraction or whatever it is. And at some point in the process, as the person going through that stuff, there's the choice of wallowing and feeling sorry for yourself and trying to get others to feel sorry for you. But at some point, there will be a decision to get up and dust yourself off and take one step forward. And there's another biblical principle I love, that there's a verse that says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." And what I like about it is that the next step is lit, not the whole journey. Because when everything is tumbling or crumbling around you, often bigger picture stuff just doesn't make sense because you're stuck in that moment and everything seems futile and everything is painful and you don't know how you're going to get out of it. And sometimes just knowing the next step, sometimes just seeing a little bit of light and knowing that the next step is going to be okay is enough to keep you going. Sometimes just getting out of bed, forcing yourself out of bed and making the bed, maybe that's your accomplishment for the day. And then what is the next step that you can do? Like that next step, that light for your path. Like you don't need in those moments to know the 5-year plan, to know everything's going to be okay, 10-year plan or whatever. You just need to know that you're going to make it through the day. You just need to know that the world isn't going to end right now, even if it feels like it is. For me, what I found in those places is that community is key. There's another story in the Bible. It's where I get a lot of my inspiration. But there's a story in the Old Testament where Moses or the Israelites are fighting a battle, and I don't like the battle metaphor. This is a not cool story relating to war, but the principle is helpful. So can we hold two contradictory things and find some truth in there? But this war is happening, and for some reason, God's intervention, when Moses' hands are in the air, when he's holding up his staff, the Israelites are winning. But every time he drops his staff, they start to lose. And so he's holding up his staff and they're winning the battle, and he's getting tired and more tired. And eventually two of his best friends come and stand at each side of him, and each one of them hold up his arms. And the battle is won. And as I said, I don't like the metaphor. I don't like war as a concept. But the lesson in there, that when I can't do this thing alone, and I have people that love me, that care for me, that presence themselves saying, I will stand next to you and I will hold your arms high as long as you need me to. That for me has been the most valuable thing. A year and a half of watching kind of various stages of my marriage come to an end. People who showed up, who took me on walks, who made regular appointments for runs and board games and things like that, were the people that said, we are going to hold your arms up until you are strong enough to carry on by yourself. And I'm so grateful for those people. Community is key. Have the right people around you. And we often might feel that we don't have a lot of sway in what our community looks like. But what I've discovered in life is to end up with good community around you, be good community. And it might sound cheesy, it might sound like something out of a greeting card, like be the community you want to receive, but I've found that to be true. In terms of the friendships that I have with people, be a great friend. And somehow that seems to attract good friends. What about somebody in your community that has just suffered a loss, whose relationship is over, who's just lost a parent, who has just been fired from their job? Are you showing up? Are you presencing? Are you providing the meal? Are you being there? Are you holding their arms? Because when you are doing that for other people, there will come a time when you look up and those people will be standing beside you. And that is such a powerful and beautiful thing. And we don't do it for others so that one day it will happen for us. We do it for others because it is an amazing thing to do. Because we love people. Because we want people to be supported and celebrated and held and seen. And if one day that happens for us, that's amazing. But are we living lives of being good community to those around us? Because as you are good community, you will discover that good community is attracted to you. Community is key. And then maybe the last question I have on this, or one of the last questions is, will you let your lowest of low moment define you? Or will you let it shape you? Kind of the thing of this is who he was, or watch who he will become. I've gone through the hardest year and a half of my life. Marriage was one thing. There was a leadership team that I was on that a number of us ended up stepping down from. It was just hard. And for the longest time, I allowed myself to actually just sit in that, because I didn't have the energy and I didn't really know. And so I went through some of the basics and I did some of the stuff I needed to do at work and kind of tried to keep on as much as I could. But there was a moment of allowing myself to sit in that stuff. And there was a moment of realizing, okay, time to get up, dust yourself off and move forward. And community makes that possible, makes it easier. But at some point, you are going to have to make that decision. I had to make that decision. And life does continue. And hopefully it gets better. Hopefully the rainbows and the silver linings and all those kind of things are there. But the stories continue, and there will be good stories and there will be other painful stories. We live in a world that that leans itself to good and bad and ugly all the time. And so likely there will be things that crush us again. But how do I pick myself up today? And so don't rush past it. Don't try and rush other people out of their cuck for your peace. But at some stage, at some point, realize that staying there too long is detrimental. That you don't want the rest of your life to be that. That there is a time to start dreaming of possibilities, to start thinking of new things, to start getting creative, and it probably starts with you going through the littlest motions, to start getting the disciplines going again. Exercise is helpful. Getting outside into nature is helpful. Picking up some old habits that may have fallen aside. For me, one of those was reading. Finding an amazing fantasy writer that I really love and just devouring kind of anything he's ever written. And finding ways of putting your hand on things that are positive in the community. So some of the volunteering that I do with Bottom Up, getting into the schools, doing public speaking stuff. Some of the work that I'm doing with Lavender Hill High School, like being in places where there are people that actually are having it worse than me. In many ways. Often that is a way to get outside of yourself, is to find somebody that's having it worse and just be there for them as much as you're able to be a presence to them in those spaces. Martin Luther King Jr., we must accept finite disappointment, but we must never lose infinite hope. And so hope always has to be there. And maybe sometimes when we're sitting in the worst of it, hope kind of sits a bit off to the sides. But when is that moment of infinite hope that we go back there? We don't give up. We keep going. We know that there are people that need us, that will benefit from having us around, that will benefit from having us hold up their arms when they're going through tough times. And so we get up and we move on. I really hope that just hearing these words, like for some of us, the knowledge that you're not alone can be super helpful. I'm not the only one that's ever gone through something like this. I'm not the only one that's ever lost someone or had a relationship end or something like that. And there's something that is strangely comforting in that, in watching other people that have gone through that are now walking tall, that are now doing okay. And hopefully one day my story will point the same to others. That yes, there was a time when things were really hard and really sucked. But life goes on, and there's a time for hope and creativity and newness and getting back into a space of wanting to change the world. Feeding passion again, vision, life. And so that comes back. Super grateful to all those that walked alongside me through the roughest of times. Some that I know, and many who are just avatars and names on social media who supported and celebrated and cheered and direct messaged and from a distance were able to speak life and be life to me and encourage me to get to a place when I can hopefully be that for others again. So I'm not going to let my lowest of low moments define me. I'm hopefully going to let them shape me. I'm hopefully going to be stronger for having worked through it, for doing the work that needs to be done in me to make me a better person, to fix the stuff in me that was messed up or broken or needing to be addressed or reflected upon or changed. But moving towards who I will be. And hoping that there will be opportunities for me to just be a presence for others who are going through the kind of grief and pain and confusion and uncertainty and loss that I have some measure of understanding of. And so if you are in that space right now, if everything feels dark and hopeless, just know that you are seen, that you are not alone, and hopefully there will be people that will draw alongside you and be the presence that you need them to be. And that you will get through this, and that there will be a time again when this infinite hope is allowed to come a little bit closer and to lead the way, to pick you up, to move you on to better things. All the best.